What's up, guys? Today we're going to be unboxing the iPhone 16e. As promised, I said I would pick this up to compare it to my older flagships because I think a lot of people definitely need these comparisons because a lot of people are going to buy this phone and you really don't have to spend, the $600 and, plus tax that, Apple is, asking you to spend here. So, it's a very awkward phone. I want to look at the phone just like straight up for what it is, and then we can kind of get into the comparison and stuff. But I went and got the black version. You only get two colors, so the black and the white. You get a nice little cable here, but this is not a budget phone anymore. This is really it's kind of like a upper mid-ranger, I guess. And it's in that price range because $600 is definitely, a lot of money here. So let's take that off. Hardware wise, we actually have no MagSafe, which a lot of people were shocked by. And it looks like this is a full glass and metal phone, so IP68 dust and water resistant, aluminum frame here. And then this one does have the action button on here. There's no camera control button, of course. And let's go ahead and boot this guy up. And we do have USB Type-C at the bottom here. So like I said, a lot of people are going to buy this phone, and there's a lot of other great options. Even if we're not talking about, we're not talking about iPhone, there's a lot of great options of Android phones you can get for the $600 price point, and a lot cheaper actually too. So let's set this up and then we'll dive in and check everything out. Alright, so we got the phone set up, and also another thing I wanted to mention was that this phone is actually kind of light. That's one of the first things I kind of noticed. But talking about the display here, so it is a 6.1 inch display, and it is it basically looks like an iPhone 14 display. We still have some pretty chunky bezels on here as well. We still have that kind of old school notch. The display itself looks fine. I don't really have an issue. It's a 6.1 inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It's 1200 nits peak brightness, and it is a 1170 by 2532, and it's 457 for the PPI. Everything looks sharp. The colors look pretty nice. The biggest thing that popped out to me using this panel was that it is a 60 hertz panel, in 2025, which again is definitely, it just doesn't look super smooth, just using this phone like right out the box. Like it's a 60 hertz screen. A lot of people might not notice if you're coming from like an SE1 2, or a lot of the base iPhones don't have 60 hertz. So the benchmarks here. So here are the Geekbench 6 scores here, and you guys can kind of see how they compare to other phones. And here is the multi-core score. You guys can see how that compares. So the chipset is pretty good, the Apple A18 chip. Now this is only a 4-core GPU version, I believe. And yeah, the phone itself, like I said, it's a smooth phone it's a fast phone as far as like getting into stuff. It's only when you kind of like look at the animations it just feels a little slow for a 2025 phone. But it's something that just Apple's been doing with these base model phones, or the base model phones and this SE lineup, of course. One of the issues that you kind of run into with these base model iPhones, and you can't play PUBG or any game at a high refresh rate, so everything is stuck at 60 frames because we have a 60 hertz display. And that's the only thing I don't like, is that Apple forces you to kind of upgrade to the pro model phones to be able to, do some competitive gaming, because I'm sure this can game fine at, 60. Let's see, we can do HDR. Yeah, HDR Extreme. It runs fine for the most part, but, not being able to game at 120 hertz or even 90 hertz sucks. I don't see why they can't put at least a 90 hertz display, in these phones or in the base model phones. It's just they just gotta sell you up. So basically, that's my biggest thing. You gotta pay like $1,000 if you want a new iPhone to be able to play PUBG competitively or Call of Duty or whatever. Let's check out these speakers at max volume. These are very good speakers, very loud, very clear, very good bass quality. Have zero issues with the speakers on here, guys. And let's talk about the Face ID. That is on here. It works perfectly fine. So, you know, there's no difference with that. Now, this phone does have Apple Intelligence. I really think the Apple Intelligence is, in my opinion, overrated. It doesn't really work that well. You know, just when I use it, and it's not just Apple Intelligence, it's the AI stuff in general right now. I never find this stuff useful. That's why I tell people, you'd be better off going with a older iPhone, you know, that, like, I would get, well, I'll do my comparison, but like, me personally, I would get like a 14 Pro Max, 13 Pro Max. You could save money. Like the Memoji, the emoji things, and the actual Apple Intelligence is just not good. Like, it's not smart enough. And I just never find this stuff useful. So, is the thing on? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so the Siri thing is here. And yeah, guys, I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but you know, all that stuff is, you know, it's here. All right, we got a 48 megapixel standard here, and it can punch into 2 times, go to 10 times. There's no ultra wide here, so that's the thing that really threw me off because of the price, you know, hike that they did. There's no ultra wide, so you know, that's kind of a bummer. It can shoot in 4K 60 on the front and back. You have a 12 megapixel selfie. The shots look decent. I didn't have an issue with the image quality. It looks very much like a, you know, iPhone. To me, it looks exactly like an iPhone 14 photos. But I have to, you know, I'll put those side by side. But it looks very similar to the iPhone 14. It's exactly what it looks like to me when I first started looking at the shots. But yeah, I'll look at that a little bit more. Low light, it did a pretty decent job. Overall, the shots, just for my first impression, they look alright. The video also is pretty solid. Apple is supposed to be using a new modem in this phone, so it's supposed to have a little bit better battery life. It's supposed to have some really good battery life, so we'll just have to see out, you know, after I get done, you know, testing the phone out and stuff like that. But you know, it should have some solid battery life here. So the phone, now the big thing here is that it doesn't have the MagSafe thing, which is, you know, pretty weird, because a lot of people use the MagSafe stuff. You can buy the MagSafe case, but it's not really like built in. Like, you can buy like the ones they do for like Android devices and stuff. So I'm sure they'll have cases like that, so you can get a good connection. But you have 7.5 wireless charging too, which is pathetic. I mean, that's extremely slow. That's actually just ridiculous. It makes no sense for them to even put that in there, because that's an absurdly slow charging speed for 2025. 7.5. Yeah, so my first impressions of the device, I mean, it's probably, you know, I don't want to judge it too soon, but this is probably one of the worst phones you could buy in 2025. Like, I'm just gonna out say it. It's probably one of the worst devices you could buy as far as the money goes. The device, you know, objectively, the camera is pretty decent. The screen's pretty decent. But just none of this is worth $600, you know, $650, you know, after the tax. The 60 Hz display, even though the chip is pretty fast, it still has a 60 Hz display, so you can't even play the games in, you know, high refresh rate. You can't play games 120 Hz. I think probably what'll end up happening is the battery life will probably be the best thing about this thing. The Apple Intelligence, in my opinion, is overrated and unnecessary. I'm telling you guys, you won't use it. Yeah, so what do you guys think?